Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Situation Room. I am Omar Khalid and we are discussing the post-Palagham false flag operation and all that has ensued within India and in Pakistan as well. As far as India is concerned, all the blatant lies that India has been perpetrating, whether it be regarding its media, whether it be regarding this false flag operation, are slowly and steadily being revealed not only by the media but also by media persons and by the people in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and in other parts of the world. The fact also is that to date there has been no tangible or credible proof that has been provided by India as far as this false flag operation is concerned. This is what Pakistan has repeatedly asked India to provide it with that proof, and that proof has never been given. On the other hand, of course, a lot of diplomatic efforts seem to be also moving along, whether it be Marco Rubio, who talked with both Mr. Jaishankar as well as our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, whether it be the other important diplomatic meetings that our Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister has been having with all the important foreign ministers of other countries and the ambassadors of important countries in Pakistan as well. The diplomatic efforts are ongoing to highlight Pakistan's perspective and Pakistan's narrative as far as this false flag operation is concerned. Also, the Chief of the Army Staff a few moments back also finished his presiding of a special corps commanders meeting that was held at the general headquarters, in which many important decisions were taken, and of course the resolve to hold steadfast and move forward in the proper manner as far as this false flag operation is concerned. The forum conducted also a comprehensive review of the prevailing geostrategic environment with particular emphasis on this current standoff between Pakistan and India and the broader regional security calculus as well. Many important things that are happening also. Indus Water Treaty also that is still in abeyance or is being held in abeyance by India, and nothing is being done as far as that is concerned, although the fact that it is being held in abeyance goes against all forms of law, international and national. Nevertheless, this is what India has taken as a decision. Muslims continue to be persecuted in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, also in other parts of the country, especially when it concerns the Kashmiris. And of course, India's intelligence failure in this Palagham and the Palagham false flag operation becomes more and more evident, with more proofs coming with every passing day. This and more will be discussed in this 2-hour transmission that we are going to hold here at PTV World. Of course, we'll be doing these transmissions since the last few days to highlight not only Pakistan's narrative, but in fact, let's put it this way, the true narrative of what has happened in Palagham. We at this moment have been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you. One, in the studio we've been joined by Jauhar Saleem Saab. He is the president of IRS and a former foreign secretary. Thank you very much, Jauhar Saab, to have joined us. Online, we have also been joined by our guest who joins us all the way from Canada. Thank you very much to have joined us. And we will also be joined by Brigadier Retired Raashid Wali Janjua Saab, who's Defence Analyst and Director IPRI later in the show. Let's begin with you, Jauhar Saleem Saab. Jauhar Saleem Saab, what should I begin with? Our Pak Forces readiness. We've had just recently recently concluded Corps Commanders meeting at the GHQ. The Chief of the Army Staff presides over it, and of course the different security paradigms of the country and the region are discussed. In your point of view, putting the Corps Commanders Forum in context, this forum has pointed to Indian intelligence involvement in sponsoring terrorism within Pakistan. And we have talked about it many a times in past shows as well. What concrete steps can Pakistan now take under the current circumstances, with all the proofs that are being unveiled every single day, to expose and counter this hybrid warfare internationally? Are we doing enough? Should we do more?
As you rightly pointed out, India has been involved in fomenting terrorism in Pakistan. Very recently, we saw the spate of terrorism in Balochistan by BLA, including the hijacking of a train. And this type of an incident has taken place in the world after about 50 years. The last one was in Netherlands, we have to remember, the last two in 77 and 79. So unprecedented in the last 50 years. And how was it possible? Such a sophisticated operation, all the facts that have come to light so far, they point at foreign hand, not just in terms of the safe havens that we have for terrorists in Afghanistan, but also Indian involvement. And there are many other incidents just in the recent past. We are not even talking about sort of, in the last 5, 10, 15 years, ever since Ajit Doval's so-called offensive defense doctrine, whereby he said that he, where necessary, they would collude with terrorist organizations to make Pakistan bleed, to avenge whatever they felt Pakistan was doing in India. Now the fact remains that Pakistan has been exposing India over the last many years, and not just with words, but by providing evidence. In the past, evidence has been provided in shape of dossiers, in shape of documentary evidence, sort of, like one-off where required, case-to-case basis, and in very many other forms. But unfortunately, what we see is that India has not stopped. In fact, very recently we saw those terrorist activities in terms of the targeted killings that it carried out, and not just in Pakistan, but also in many other countries in South Asia and beyond, including UK, the US, and Canada. And they had a diplomatic row, a very serious one with Canada on that, and with the UK as well. Now, despite that, India has continued to just accuse Pakistan, and in this most recent instance, when they have done so, they haven't really provided any substantive evidence for that. The international community is a witness to that. We know that in India recently, when they had this briefing for the over 100 diplomatic missions there, all the envoys in New Delhi, they failed to produce substantive evidence, to the extent that many of those diplomats subsequently, in their comments to the media, remarked that India just focused, or sort of, they were just repeating the terms like, oh, this is the past pattern and past pattern, and but they failed to provide any evidence of this particular incident. Now that is the case, but India has now, what we've seen is that it has doubled down on its insistence, rather than agreeing to an impartial, unbiased investigation that Pakistan has actually proposed. Pakistan has proposed that if such an investigation will be carried out, Pakistan would join that and would be willing to provide any type of help. If any links are established, that would point to Pakistan. Pakistan is willing to extend full assistance and cooperation.
The fact is that our Prime Minister had also said, and this fact has been reiterated, that we want an inquiry, made an impartial inquiry as far as this false flag operation is concerned, and Pakistan is ready to provide any kind of assistance to an impartial and neutral inquiry. But even to that query, there has been no answer so far from India as well. You said Pakistan is always ready, and that is why I wanted to add to that, because Pakistan has always been ready, because Pakistan is in the clear. Pakistan knows it is not, it has not done anything that is wrongful, and it is India that is completely and wholly implicated as far as this Palagham false flag operation is concerned. We've been joined by Shazia Malik online as well, joins us all the way from Canada. Shazia, thank you very much to have joined us. Shazia, I'd just like to reiterate a little statement from what was discussed during the Corps Commanders meeting chaired by the Chief of the Army Staff, in which the forum noted India's consistent pattern of exploitation of crises to achieve political and military objectives. Now, former RAW Chief Amarjeet Singh Dulat has admitted about the lack of security and wrongful blame on Kashmiris that challenges the Indian government's version of the Palagham incident. Doesn't that come as a surprise to you, seeing what India has been perpetrating across the 7 seas in Canada and in the US?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, Omar. There are 2 parts of this question. And I really want to bring both of them in, because the Indian government is not really only doing terrorism, across borders. but in its country as well. And I mean, of course, what do you expect from a government which is headed by the butcher of Gujarat? And they had the audacity, and especially their defense minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, when they talked to Pete Hegseth yesterday, and they said Pakistan is doing all the terrorism. So I want to tell these two gentlemen, maybe because they are old and they have become gajni, so I want to just inform them who killed actually Hardeep Singh Nijjar in my country, that is Canada, who was caught planning the murder of Gul Patwant Singh Pannu in US, whose spies were ousted from Australia, who have been killing people in Amarnath Yatra. Who are these Mitais who are killing Kuki Zoo in Manipur? Who is this person, Archbishop Andrew Hazek, who went to Mr. Modi and begged him not to kill Christians? Who are these people who are constantly, killing Muslims and, burning their houses, raping their women, making them parade naked in the, in public? Who are these people who are killing people in the name of love jihad and all this? So they need to do a lot of introspection, inside India. Pakistan was never there when, this Amarnath Yatra was attacked, or Indira Gandhi was assassinated, or Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. So, and who are these people? Urban Naxals. So not only outside of the country and transnational terrorism, but even inside their country, they are killing the Muslims, the Dalits, the Christians. So they need to do all this introspection. And instead of calling Pakistan terrorists, they should be looking at themselves, what they have been doing. They are constantly, burning or tearing down the mosques of Muslims, and they are also creating problems for other nations in the region. Not only really Pakistan, they are also creating problems for so many others, across the world. They also constantly, interfere in our elections. We have a CSIS report over here that they are, interfering in our elections. So they think that they have become Israel and they can also operate like Mossad, but that is not going to happen, at least as far as Pakistan is concerned. We don't consider us Afghanistan or some small African country. We are Pakistan. We are well prepared. We have fought war on terror for the longest time. Our people are well prepared to look at you right in the eyes. Who, tried to enter sometime back in Pakistan, and 2 of their planes was shot down. Have you forgotten this? So they really need to look at these things. And just recently also, some of their drones were shot down. So if they think that they can still follow the policies of M.S. Gawalkar, who said in his, very renowned text you might have read, Bunch of Thoughts, when they said that whenever there's a masjid or Muslim mohalla, Muslims believe it is their own separate territory. Sir, we are sitting in our territory, but the ones who are sitting in your territory, you are constantly killing them and pushing them to the wall. Your recent Waqf Act speaks volumes about your mentality for the minorities in your country. You are constantly changing the Muslim names in your country. You are so scared of them. The 16th century mosque, Shahi Masjid and Pragya Raj, that was demolished. The 300-year-old mosque in Uttar Pradesh in Muzaffarnagar, that was so raised because you said you want to...
the truth is that India has been involved in terrorism, transnational, regional, national, not since now, but since years and since decades, and tangible proof is there. The recent big incident of Jauhar Express had Indian fingerprints all over it, and this is what also the world needs to realize when they talk to India on any bilateral or regional matter. We've been joined by Brigadier Retired Raashid Wali Janjua Sahab, Defence Analyst and Director IPRI. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. And we've also been joined by Barrister Talha Ali Khaja, who's a legal expert who's joined us right here in the studios. We have to go to a All right. We have to go to Raashid, Wali, Janjua Sahab. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. We were just talking about the Indian transnational terrorism and all the different countries that it has been found to be involved in terrorist activities and assassinations. Let's come to Pakistan. With 3,700 terror incidents, 77,000 operations conducted since January of 2024. How do you evaluate Pakistan's internal security performance, and how ready are we in case of any miscalculation from the Indian side?
You see, the Indians are very clear in there's a method in their madness. They have resorted to this thing based upon certain objectives. And the objectives are walking out of Indus Basin Treaty, uh, again suppressing and changing the demographics of Kashmir. After Palagham, you have seen so many raising of the houses, snatching of the properties, and cancelling of the leases. And the third objective is, of course, to ratchet up the tensions on the eastern frontier to keep us fixed and to bleed us with their proxies like TTP and BLA. That's the overall objective. And since India is in a perpetual election mode, Modi administration is trying to extract the maximum dividends. Look what happened after Pahalgam. After 2 days, Prime Minister Modi goes to a election rally in Bihar and gives his stentorian commands with a lot of bluster, accusing the Muslims and promising his electorate to go for the Muslims till the end of last Muslim. So this is very inflammatory rhetoric, and he always resorts to that whenever there is an election either at the central level or in the states. After that, West Bengal election is coming. So this whole thing is choreographed, orchestrated to extract the electoral dividends. And the other three objectives I have just enumerated. So this means that this is a policy and objectives driven incident and standoff, and India would be very carefully evaluating whether they have achieved their objectives or not. And whenever they see they have partially achieved and the international community is not giving them enough heft to proceed with their aggressive designs, they might beat a retreat. But we need to be very careful because of our alertness. If they cannot cross the borders, they might resort to a covert action. And therein lies our vulnerability, because there are proxies operating in Balochistan, there are proxies operating on KPK province, and those are being generously funded. Our
proof of that has also been given by the DGISPR on 2 occasions. Very recently, when he had 2 pressers, one after the other, he gave tangible proofs of that very involvement of India within Pakistan with proxies.
Yes, of course. And 3,896 casualties on our part, those are very costly shahadats. And at the same time, we are exacting a heavy toll of hardcore terrorists. So this is a very, very difficult battle that our armed forces are fighting. And they have kept this scourge of terrorism at bay by their blood and guts. But what India is probably doing is now coming to the rescue of the same proxies that India felt were coming under a lot of stress because of successful prosecution of our counter-terrorism campaign. And this is a classical case of killing too many birds with one stone. And they walked out of Indus Basin already. So we can say that they have partially achieved their objective. Whether it passes muster on the bar of international law at international fora remains to be seen. And we need to do a proper job of exposing India in all those forums. We need to persuade the World Bank to take up the case for an advisory opinion with International Court of Justice. We need to highlight the standoff in which India is seeking the elusive conventional space for war fighting, which is very, very elusive in case of 2 nuclear adversaries. Because once you are having nuclear deterrence, there's virtually no space for conventional warfare. But since India is trying to create that thin sliver of that space, we have our conventional response well configured and we are denying that space. That is why Indians are getting more desperate and their armed forces are under a lot of stress because of these, childish and ideology driven
I mean, I would like to
objectives.
beg, I would beg to differ with you, Raashid Wali Janjua sir. It's not childish, it's very well planned and very well maneuvered and well thought of, different maneuvers or machinations that India has been doing since the last few decades. Please stay online with us. Jauhar Saleem Saab. Jauhar Saleem Saab, there are so many questions that I need to ask. I mean, I could take 1 hour just talking to you about that. But let's, Jauhar, how should I say, Brigadier talking about the Indian intelligence and how it has failed on so many levels. But I also see diplomacy, Indian diplomacy also failing on certain levels. If you remember well, Marco Rubio talked recently to both our Prime Minister and Jaishankar, who is the External Affairs Minister of India. In the conversation that he has, the text of which, I'm not talking of what we are saying, I'm just talking about the US State Department has released as text of that conversation. In this conversation with Jaishankar, Rubio encourages, I quote unquote, encourages India to work with Pakistan to de-escalate tensions and maintain peace and security in South Asia. Now, this is a very important statement. It's the last phrase of that communication. There are two parts to it. The first, working with Pakistan to de-escalate tension. India has never ever agreed in the last few years or decades to work with Pakistan on any level whatsoever to de-escalate tension. And maintain peace and security in South Asia. It seems to me as a veiled remark on India on what it is doing. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that was a very important statement. In fact, my comments on that statement have been published in some newspaper articles today as well. You see, there are three elements to what the world leaders are saying to India right now. One is they have been condemning terrorism. Now, that is something all countries do. We have done that as well in this particular incident too. Secondly, they have expressed solidarity in terms of condolence, condoling the deaths of those killed in this act of terrorism. And then number three, which is we have done that as well, by the way. We condole those deaths as well. Now, number three.
Okay, Jauhar Sahab, we have to cut you short. We have to go to a short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and revelations and more revelations are being unearthed as far as this Palagham false flag operation is concerned. The latest being the dismissal of D.S. Rana, who is the Defense Intelligence Agency Chief of India. I'd like to request Raashid Wali Janjua Saab to tell me a little bit about the Indian security institution and the failure and the internal crisis that we are seeing within this institution that is leading to so many dismissals, so many transfers, and the latest being that of the Defense Intelligence Chief D.S. Rana. What does this bode as far as the Indian intelligence apparatus is concerned?
You see, this is same if we relate to the last thread we were discussing. I had hinted at strategic naivete of PM Modi because his whole act might appear to be well crafted, well orchestrated, based on three concrete objectives that we have already discussed. But you see, wherein lies the strategic naivete is the inability to see that there is no space for conventional conflict which they are trying to seek. And if it boomerangs on them, there will be greater embarrassment, and all those dividends they are trying to accrue might turn into liability. So that's one part. This DIA chief's, sacking and certain postings including one Air Force deputy chief and Northern Command commander. These are indicative of the pushback that is coming from within the armed forces, which are resenting this strategic naivete, which is clothed in ideologically driven objectives by the Indian political leadership. The Army, Indian Air Force is feeling hard put, prizing open that elusive space for a conventional conflict under a nuclear overhang, which is a no-go area. No two nuclear countries have ever gone to a war, barring a skirmish which India-Pakistan had in Kargil. And that was also quickly diffused. So here, if they are trying to achieve those objectives, I think partially they have already achieved walking out of Indus Basin, consolidation of their chokehold on Kashmiris to change the demographics, and stoking unrest in Pakistan through their proxies, which is a continual effort. So, what would they gain by this, other than assuaging the sentiment of their own population, which has been uh, ratcheted up because of their propaganda? And everything that is happening in India is being externalized. So it is akin to Pakistan mobilizing its forces for an aggression against India in the wake of Jafar Express. Pakistan did not do that. Even now, as a responsible state, Pakistan has asked for a investigation, and I think that should put a lot of cold water over Indian shrill rhetoric, and that is why you see all the external diplomatic channels and the global powers, they are all looking for a credible evidence and asking India to provide a shred of evidence before castigating Pakistan, which they have failed to do so. So these sackings and these internal upheavals are indicative of uh, discontent within the Indian strategic community and Indian armed forces, which are facing difficulty in going for those elusive and nebulous objectives that their political leadership is asking them to achieve. So there is an internal discord, and I'm sure this will further exacerbate as the time passes, because I don't think so. They are faced with an alert and highly prepared adversary. The Indian armed forces are capable of seeking any advantage anywhere on conventional plane. So if they are not doing that, then all they are looking for is a face saving and appeasement of the public sentiment. How they do so, it is their challenge, and how they de-escalate this situation would be the function of the statesmanship uh, at the political level, which they have failed to display so far.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Raashid Wali Janjua Saab, Defence Analyst, Director IPRI, to have joined us to have discussed in detail the Indian intelligence failure and, of course, giving us your point of view on the strategic output of it all. Thank you very much. Coming to the studios, Jauhar, Saleem Saab, we were talking about diplomacy and this conversation between Rubio and Jaishankar, and you were telling me the different paradigms of it all. Would you like to continue that conversation?
Yeah. So what we have seen so far, and I mentioned that in my comments earlier on, that we will see in the coming days intense diplomacy. Some of it would be discreetly conducted, that is not within the public view, and there would be some that would be carried out in public view. So as we have seen in the media, whether electronic or the press media, all these statements that have come out, number one, all the transcripts of telephone calls that have been made and which have been sort of shared with the media, and most prominent amongst them were the yesterday's conversation between Marco Rubio and Jaishankar, and then of course Marco Rubio and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, because I think that in some ways sums up the concerns, the perspective, and the desire of international community, which is number one, the international community wants to see de-escalation taking place. They don't want to see this standoff turning into a military conflict between two nuclear powers. Because we have to remember that ever since the nuclear states have come into being, there has never been a direct war between nuclear states. And that is why this is so dangerous. This escalation in many ways is unprecedented.
But you know, Jauhar Sahib, you say this escalation is unprecedented in many ways, but why doesn't India realize that?
You see, there's a method to the apparent madness that you see. And Brigadier Raashid, in his detailed readout of like statement, what he said was that, you know, he termed it naivety. But I see it a little differently. I think, or an immature approach, like he said. Also, I think that this has been a consistent approach. India has been trying to undermine Pakistan, and in a very strategic manner. And why is that? The reason is very simple. Two or three reasons for that. In fact, one is that India wants to be the hegemon of the region, and Pakistan is the country in the way, you know, because which other countries, whether it's Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, well, you know, they have not sided with India, they have resisted India, but they're not nuclear states. They don't really have the type of military power Pakistan has. They don't really, they don't have a history of wars with India that we have. So India sees Pakistan as the biggest obstacle in the way. And that is why it is trying to undermine Pakistan consistently so that Pakistan stops resisting that hegemony. Number two, it's the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir.
True.
India thinks that it has resolved the issue, so to speak.
By abrogating 370 and 35A.
And 35A, and they think, okay, they have sort of, you know, they have a domestic solution. You know, as Modi has expressed this view often, that it has resolved, the issue is finished. And they think by sort of, you know, they will change the demography. They think that the elections were held and 60% of what close to that voted. They have sort of, you know, they have been endeavoring to have a massive injection of investment and sort of economic activity there, promoting economic activity there, promoting tourism there, and then present a fait accompli to the world that look, and which they have been saying.
But you know, Jauhar Saleem Sahib, the fact is that this fait accompli, as you said, is something that is based on so many falsehoods that now slowly and steadily that cookie is crumbling, and the world is realizing that inside that cookie is a lot of dark matter, a lot of matter that has, that insinuates that India has been perpetrating a certain narrative that is A, contrary to the truth, B, against any kind of peace endeavors, and C, diverting attention from internal failures of India and putting all the blame on the neighborhood countries and destabilizing the neighborhood countries so that they can be made into a hegemon, when they know very well that with inside that so-called hegemon are so many little cards that could very easily crumble down and create an internal failure for this country that is known as India. Thank you very much, Jauhar Saleem Sahib, to have joined us. And Barrister Sahib, I'm really sorry we haven't been able to ask you any questions so far, but we are going to come back after a short break and we are going to discuss more on many different aspects, the Indus Water Treaty for one, and of course the persecution of Muslims for the other. Stay tuned right here to PTV World.